Hi. We had a pretty nice collection of pictures
Of the
from the Cramer farm out in Greenbrook, New Jersey. That's close to Dunellen and Plainfield. This is a picture of the house, and as you can see, the shingles were broken.
Why are you taking it off? Do you want to leave it on there?
My grandfather's sort of standing in the middle of the cabbage patch here, and it looks more like a barn than a house, but it was actually a house. It was pretty dilapidated. My father said that when all the kids slept on the second floor, and they could see through those shingles. They could see the stars in the sky. And they had all kinds of pots and pans that they would put in to catch the water when it rained.
And it
Anyway,
had dirt floor.
This
Didn't it have a dirt floor?
this picture.
Mom, didn't it have a dirt floor?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did have a dirt floor. Mom said that the dirt was so hard packed that it was just like linoleum, and as long as it didn't get wet, it was perfectly fine. This was a picture of the barn, which was
Even more ramshackle.
even more ramshackled than the other picture. My grandfather was sitting out in the yard, and that was the only picture that we have of him, aside from the one where he was in the garden.
What did he do for a living?
He was a farmer. That's all he did.
What did he grow?
And he wasn't a very good farmer, and he didn't make very much money. So
What did he grow?
Well, I think they just grew sort of vegetables and that sort of thing. And he had a little cart. You know, he had a wagon and a horse, and he went around selling his produce in town. And but they were sort of dirt poor. This is some picture of my grandmother on that side of the family. She was her maiden name was I think maybe you can let that go, Meg.
I can't.
Okay. She was married to a Cramer, but her maiden name was Falk, F-A-L-K, and she was born and raised in Hamburg, Germany, before she came over as a young girl in her late teens.
Where were the Cramers from?
The Cramers, I don't know. My grandfather was actually born in this country, but his folks came from Prussia too.
Prussia was in Germany. It was Germany.
Well, yeah, Prussia was in
Poland, maybe.
Well, it was. I think now it's part of Poland, but in those days it was Prussia was part of Germany, and it was in the northern part of Germany and in the eastern part of Germany. This is a picture of my aunt, and we always looked at her as I guess her family always looked at her as a great success, because she was one of the girls in the Follies in New York. Unfortunately, she got sick at a very early age and died, I think, in her late 20s or early 30s.
What was her name?
Her name was Irene. And she was really I never knew her, because she died before I even was born. My father, when he was a kid, he had to quit school when he was in 4th grade, because they needed him to work, and so he worked on the farm, and he had his as soon as he was able, he bought his own little wagon and a little pony, and he went into the business of selling his wares in town. but he never was able to really get much of an education because, as you know, you don't get a heck of a lot of an education when you quit at the 4th grade level. However, when he got older, he went back to school because he realized he needed more of an education than he had. One of his first jobs was...
How far did he go?
Well, I don't know how far he went, actually. Probably just enough to learn some arithmetic and how to, he could read. Probably his mom helped him out reading. A lot of his education was probably just on the farm. But when he was a young man, one of his first jobs was on the railroad, or not the railroad. It was like
Streetcar?
A streetcar, yeah. And this is him right here, with a bunch of his buddies that worked for the company too.
What did he do on there?
I don't know. I think they collected the money. They used to walk up and down.
It was like a cable car that...
Yeah, so it was like, it wasn't electric because there wasn't in it those days, I don't think. But it was, I don't know what was, I don't know what pulled that thing. Maybe it was a car or was a horse.
Steam or something. They have a kerosene lamp and stuff.
Yeah. This is another picture of my father when he was just a young man, and he's all dressed up and having a picture taken of him professionally.
How old were you then?
I suppose he was probably
before he got married?
Yeah, this was before he got married. He was probably 20, something like that. This is a picture of his family in later years, and this is my grandmother, who you saw a picture of before. This was her. My father's tickling her. That's why she's having an argument with him to some degree. This is my Aunt Louise, who lived in California and was visiting that year. This is my Uncle Bill, and this is my Aunt Minnie. Aunt Minnie was the oldest one in that family. And she sort of, the old man in that household was a very difficult man to live with, I guess. So as soon as the kids got old enough to leave, they did. And Aunt Minnie got out first because she was the oldest. And then as the kids got a little older, they would go and live with her. And she started sort of having a little boarding house where most of her family lived. And she supported them, and they supported her, and until they got married and left the house. But my aunt, there was 2 other kids in this family. One being Aunt Irene, who was the one that I said was in the Follies, and my Uncle Charlie, who died an early death because he drank wood alcohol. This is my father when he was like in his early 50s, and I think he was, I can't remember, he had to have this picture taken for some kind of an award he was getting with the Elks or something. I can't really remember what it was. Anyway, that's about it for the pictures we have of the...
We would also like to go back, and we have one picture that goes into a little bit of Harry Cramer Sr. and some of his siblings.
Okay, I don't know how clear this picture is, but the man standing back here was my father. And the little child standing on the wall besides him is Marion, and she must be, I'd say, 2 or 3 years old at that point. This is my father's sister, Irene. And
this the Folly, right? She was the Folly.
She was in the one that never married and was in the Follies. And this is my his eldest sister, Aunt Minnie, who was married and had 2 children. Her first child was this little boy sitting on the wall, and the baby in her arms, who is Norman.
What was the other boy's name?
His name was Harry. He was named after my father.
Okay.
The little girl sitting next to. Oh, I knew that was not going to last there. The little girl that's sitting next to Harry, the child, is Dottie, and I don't know who this person is. I don't know.
Okay, so is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the Cramer family?
No, this is basically the Cramer family.
The one thing I wanted to ask you about is they had that old farmhouse that was real rickety that we saw in earlier pictures.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling a story one time that when they decided to move, they just took one leg of a table and set the house, when all the furniture on fire, and left. So
right.
what was the reason for that?
Well, this was that happened when my grandfather had already died, and this is on the Cramer side of the family. His name was Conrad Cramer. Anyway, he died, and my grandmother lived there for quite a few years after that. But when she finally got into her late 60s or early 70s, I don't know which, they decided that she shouldn't be left out there on the farm. It was kind of an isolated place at the time. Now it's all built up, of course, but at that time there were just farms out there, and she didn't really have many people to kind of take care of her. And so they decided that she should come in town and get an apartment where everybody could kind of keep track of things better. And so they decided that they would take just the furniture that she needed for a small apartment, and because they didn't want looters or people to just go in and destroy or to use the old farmhouse, which didn't amount to much anyway, they just set fire to the whole thing, and the only thing they actually saved was one table. Aunt Minnie saved one table, and she had a little ashtray stand made out of each leg of the table and gave it to each member of the family. And then my sister, who was a little kid at the time, but and she was there at the site, she said, "Oh, don't burn that chair," and it was an old Victorian chair. So they dragged that chair out, and everything else went up in flames.
Mm-hmm. Good.